All right, so we are gonna move on to talking about what's going on with Amazing Discovery and Matthew's departure, who's been part of Amazing Discovery for a while. I didn't know what this was about, so I only listened to part of this video. So maybe we can do 7 minutes of this discussion to hear what he is saying and the reason he left. I would like to know more. I would like to have Matthew on our channel so that we can discuss what's going on. I have a lot of respect for Amazing Discoveries because of Dr. Walter Veith, but I've also heard Dr. Walter Veith is not really working with them anymore. Is that what it is? I heard he's running a different ministry than
Yeah,
Amazing.
I think it's Clash of Minds, so that's an entirely separate from AD.
Wow, that's crazy. I never knew that. All right, so there must be some things going on. So certain things must have changed to lead to that. But instead of engaging in gossip, let's try to hear what this is about. My goal is to pray for Amazing Discoveries because I think they have a powerful ministry. So, all right, let's take a listen to Matthew. See what's going on over there.
Formerly with Truth Matters and Amazing Discoveries. Well, hello, brothers and sisters. It's Matthew Schanche here, formerly with Truth Matters and Amazing Discoveries. I've been getting a whole lot of questions about my status with the ministry and what's happened, and I've been having, honestly, a really difficult time trying to figure out exactly what to say and how to put everything. But this is my new channel. We're going to be exploring a whole lot of very, I believe, important and impactful things that are designed to help people find Christ for themselves. And we just don't have a lot of time to mess around. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to get done. And unfortunately, I have been removed from the ministry over differences in our religious beliefs. This has kind of been ongoing for a while, and I'm not saying that I'm right and they're wrong, or they're wrong and I'm right. It's just that we're just not seeing things that eye to eye. And I'm going to clarify some of my views because I've actually had a pretty big impact on my own life with places where I speak. People are concerned that I hold some of the same views as AD. So this is going to be me sharing some of my beliefs and how they're slightly different than AD's, or in some cases a lot different than AD's, and basically share that I'm starting this new channel. And I have some information I think that people may want to hear when they're considering how to discern the real from the fake, the truth and the error. And I'm really hoping that with your support, we'll be able to continue this work in a way that can help impact people's lives. I want to continue carrying forward that type of work that was being done, which is providing evidence-based information, putting it together in a way that makes sense, that helps people get into action, get in a relationship with their Bible, get in a relationship with Jesus Christ, confessing our sins, asking for forgiveness, walking the walk of sanctification by faith, and hopefully preparing the people for what's coming. There's some very real things that I'm hoping to push at that will allow us to really get clear on the powers behind the scenes, who they control, how it all functions together to basically bring about the conditions for this final world system to occur. And that system, from my point of view, is one that will be headed by Satan appearing as Christ, who will enact the papacy and American Protestantism as the main entities by which the world is governed. It will be a Christianized world. And we're going to cover some of this as we review some of my my beliefs here. And I did this because I really wanted to show people just where I stand, so there's no confusion. And I'm just going to read these as statements and kind of share some thoughts on them as I read them. So that way, as we move forward, there's really no confusion about my stance on these views. And I'm also going to give some contact information for people who want to reach out after this, that if people have other additional questions, I'm pretty much an open book. So ask away and I'll do my best to answer. So these beliefs, again, these are just my own. Like, I really couldn't want to uphold God's God-given right of free will more. That is a fundamental right that I hold so dear. I even support respect the views of those who don't believe the same as I do, because I believe each individual has the right to think and choose for themselves. And the papacy and the beast system hates this perspective because it's kind of puts the rights of the individual above the rights of the common good. We're not going to get into that right now. But here are some of my views, and I'm sharing these specific ones because they represent a shift from where Amazing Discoveries kind of was to maybe where they are now, and how I align maybe with the old guard and maybe not so much the new. Again, I respect each person's right to think or choose for themselves. This is not me saying that I'm right or wrong, but I'm just sharing my beliefs based on the information as I understand it and have reviewed it. The first kind of topic I want to touch on is papacy and American Protestantism and not Islam. And I'm just going to read this and the next few and just kind of dialogue as I go along. It is my belief that the Bible and the spirit of prophecy make it clear that the primary entities to watch for at the end of time are the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. Ellen White wrote extensively about Satan impersonating Christ, the papacy and Protestantism unifying under a banner of spiritualism, all working together, leading a Christianized world away from the truth of Scripture and God's holy law. She warned of a future where the world, united as one under Roman principles, enforces laws that are contrary to God's law and enforced through the power of the state. Yet, after an extensive review of both sides of the issues, I pose two questions. How many pages did Ellen White write about a future battle between the papacy and Islam? I contend there are none. How much did she write about Islam being used by God as the only instrument responsible for all 7 last plagues? I have seen nothing so far that would support this view. Now, this is more than just King of the North, King of the South conversations. This is Islam as the primary instrument, exclusive instrument, I should say, of all 7 last plagues. I have never seen a single page written about those things in the spirit of prophecy. Personally, I believe, and will provide content soon to support, that Islam is already under control of papal Rome, not the enemy of it. In an effort to deceive, the papacy is working to make it seem as though the American Protestant prophetic view, where Islam and Israel play a central role in end-time events, is accurate and unfolding in order to give the false prophet credibility. See, they're trying to make all this look like it's coming to fruition, the third temple and all of the elements between Israel and Palestine and Israel as a nation, a Zionist movement, I guess you could call, from the 1940s, which stems from the Rothschilds, which actually goes back to the days of the Templars, the original Templars. They're called Templars because they wanted to build the temple. We're going to get into that in the future. So, but the idea here is you create a false fulfillment of prophecy to give entities more credibility. And in this case, that's what's happening with the false prophet. I'll continue here. While Islam may indeed play a part, I believe and will put forth evidence to support that it is a part directed by Rome, not as an independent force acting outside the influence of the papacy. I stand with Walter Veith on the many positions that he puts forth in his lectures, Islamic Connection. And while this specific lecture has been removed from AD's official channels, given that it currently conflicts with the ministry's new views, it can still be found online. And I think those insights in there, as well as a handful of books and a number of, well, let's just say interesting pieces of evidence that I hope to put forth in the future that will really bring this whole thing together and should be considered when we're discussing Islam's prophetic role in comparison with the papacy and American Protestantism and some of these other entities. Point number 2, quote, the torch of false prophecy. So this is stemming from a specific Ellen White quote that's being used to uphold a particular position. Let's take a look. The view has been put forth that anyone teaching the King of the North as the papacy is fulfilling the writings of Ellen White when she states that the, quote, torch of false prophecy, and here's the reference here, will be preached in the pulpits at the end of time. Additionally, this perspective implies that this statement by Sister White applies to anyone who does not teach using William Miller's rules to understand prophecy, or to anyone who does not use those rules to conclude the following: that Islam is the king of the north, that literal Egypt is the king of the south, that the caliphate is going to fight a future battle with the papacy over Jerusalem, and that Islam is responsible, as previously mentioned, for all 7 last plagues, acting as God's exclusive instrument in this capacity. So it's kind of using William Miller's rules, not just accepting those, which those rules are fine. They're great. You can use them. But if different people apply the same rules to the same book, oftentimes they still come up with different answers. And that's kind of to be the case here. So it's not just the William Miller rules, accepting or not teaching those that is the false torch, but it's to use those rules to arrive at these conclusions. While I respect the rights of those who choose to believe these outcomes, after a review of the evidence presented, I don't subscribe to or support these views. Given the highly unique nature of these specific conclusions and its requirements, the very application of them effectively renders all teachers, ministers, and pastors within the denomination, including views Amazing Discoveries has shared on these topics on its platform for the past 30 years, is now promoting false prophecy. So I don't hold these positions. I do agree that Ellen White made this statement. And as this further paragraph will say, I believe that there is a false torch of prophecy coming into our pulpits, but I understand when to apply to different topics. As it says here, to those in our midst who will reject the Sabbath, the doctrine on the state of the dead, the role of Jesus today in the most holy place and the investigative judgment, and the rejection of other pillars, and I'm not going to get into right now. Rather than
Wow. Okay, we can work with this, guys. I want to get a thought on this. So, according to what Matthew is saying, if I'm not misunderstanding what he's saying, there are some new teachings coming, at least interpretation of Bible prophecy, coming to Amazing Discoveries that no longer aligns with what Walter Vythe had been preaching. This could be a reason why he's had to leave. And he felt the need to leave as well because these teachings and interpretations don't seem to line up with Bible prophecy. Where do you guys stand on this when it comes to Islam and Bible prophecy and the beast and everything else? What your thought is when it comes to that? Brother Tobias, in the meantime, can you share a thought on this that we're just talking about here?
Yeah, sure. Um, the verse that comes to mind is, "Can two walk together? Let's say agree." And unfortunately, it seems this is what has happened between Brother Matthew and Amazing Discoveries. Now, in regards to, I guess, their shift in their understanding of Bible prophecy, obviously, I've heard and I believe that Islam plays a important role in the fulfillment of Bible prophecy. But this is my first time hearing where Islam is shifted as a central figure or a primary figure in Bible prophecy. So that's new to me. What he presented is definitely my first time hearing that interpretation. And I would have to disagree with that because, to his concern, it's shifting the focus from American prophecy, what apostate Protestant is doing, and it's shifting the focus to over in the Middle East. And again, that doesn't mean they don't play a significant role, but they're not a primary or central figure as I interpret Bible prophecy found in Daniel and in Revelation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Of technology, and I will agree with you. Islam played a role in Revelation chapter 9 when you talk about the locusts coming from the earth, and you carefully study that from a historicist perspective, you will find Islamic fulfilled that. But as far as their role in the final days of prophetic application, you don't find anything. Like none of the pioneers believe this. Ellen White, the Great Controversy, has nothing to say about it. I do believe their role is, I don't know. It seems like there's a class of the Islamic faith. All right, he's back. That's going to they're either going to be converted, or some of them will just go along with the papacy.
Right.
But I think, but as far as them, the papacy and versus Islam, I don't find that in prophecy. It's not. It's a new theory. You can go ahead. Can you share the perspective you had earlier? We didn't have a chance to hear it. So,
Yeah. So when I was listening, I heard a focus on Israel, and as for myself, like I look at Israel and we could get focused on Israel, but what I'm concerned about is spiritual Israel, which to me, when I look at the Bible, Spirit of Prophecy, I know it to be the Seventh Day Adventist Church of spiritual Israel. I
mm,
do see that as Muslim, like Islam the Muslims are pushing a certain agenda. There is a conflict going, but the trap is always to sink your eyes in Israel when we should be sinking our eyes on Christ and
mm,
monitoring God's church. Yeah.
that is
And
actually crucial. You were able to make that application. So there is still that turning the attention away toward, the temple and Jerusalem, and so that's that futuristic stuff. I see it as a connection to that in what Matthew was sharing as well. So,
that's right. And when you consider what's going on, when you look at the Bible itself, the Bible's telling us to focus on those three, that satanic trinity of the devil or the dragon, the beast, Protestantism. That should be our focus, and that should be where we're analyzing things. Now, you may be saying, well, how do you focus on the devil? That kind of sounds unhealthy. Well, no, the devil's leading out a movement, spiritualistic movement, right? Which would be all your isms, right? It would be your Hinduism, your Buddhism, and so on, right?
wow, great point. Your point.